During my 10 years speedrunning, I've always seeked to challenge my skill sets in different styled genres of speed games. One genre I've not tried before was strategy games. When looking for a speed game to try out, Age of Empires and Heroes of Might and Magic came to mind. However, I settled on a game that had a big impact in my childhood. Roller Coaster Tycoon was a game mostly developed by one person named Chris Sawyer. This game is very famous for how it was developed, being coded purely in assembly. The main question I heard a lot when running this game is, how do you speedrun this game? Each scenario has its own set of requirements and allocates you a time frame based on the in-game calendar to complete it by. However, if we rely on the game's confirmation of the completion of a scenario, every single speedrun would finish at the exact same time. The way we get around this issue is by stopping the timer when each of the scenario's parameters have been met. There are two ways you can run this game. Original, or otherwise called RCT 1%, pretty dumb name, means that you'll run this game in its original state and stop the timer when the scenario parameters have been cleared. The second option is FF%, shortened for Fast Forward %. In this version, you are able to load RCT1 in OpenRCT and use the Fast Forward function to complete the scenario quicker. This is the more recognised way to run the game, as the run takes less time to complete. I decided to dedicate roughly 1 month of attempts to grind out times in each individual level and see where I stack up against everyone else. I decided to run the original game, as I personally do not like the speed up mechanics in individual levels. My objective was to go through all the scenarios of the game and see how many levels I could place myself in the top 3 for. If you enjoyed this video, please feel free to make suggestions for other games for me to try out, and I might make this in a continuing series. I decided I'm going to show these levels in chronological order and only showcase my successful PBs as I ran out of storage on my hard drive. Forest Frontiers was one of the most difficult to optimize in the entire month. The formula for how we optimize these levels is similar throughout, but this level felt like it had a higher element of luck compared to the others. When speedrunning these levels, there are several things runners need to balance doing. Opening the park, setting a price, building rides and stalls so we can then advertise the park, building rides again as quickly as possible to then generate a higher guest cap, and lastly applying a no entry sign to stop guests from leaving. When blocking the exit for guests, the park rating will drop as the guest will then feel lost. To combat this issue, players will spawn a massive amount of entertainers to reduce the decline of park rating. Third place was a 358, and I had many runs getting close to sub 4, but after a few hours of attempts, I finally ticked off my first level, tying third place with a 358. I noticed when jumping into Dynamite Dunes, the gap between second and third was 1 minute and 40 seconds. With that in mind, I thought this could be my opportunity to get my first uncontested top 3 time. This scenario was a lot nicer to grind than Forest Frontiers. Rather than spamming a million rides in the empty landscape, the start of this level had a more concise route to it. Positioning rides specifically to make a long queue to reduce the amount of guests being lost was very smart. This PB only took 11 attempts, and I was able to secure my first top 3 time with an 852. I wish Dynamite Dunes style of play was the continuing way forward, but sadly Leafy Lake reverts us back to the similar setup to Forest Frontiers, building as many Ferris wheels as we could muster in the lake, whilst managing our park rating. Within 6 attempts I secured another third place time with a 743. This level is the introduction to levels which can be completed within the first few in-game days. I really did not enjoy grinding these levels, as it required very precise execution to hit the scenario check on the right in-game cycle. This game basically runs checks each in-game day, which I believe is every 7 to 13 seconds. First and second are practically tied at the 26 second mark, third place was 38 seconds, and I knew I was either going to try and tie third or first. The world record route is more precise to execute, needing to test a ride, then open it at a precise time to get your roller coaster stats faster than normal to increase your park value before the next in-game day clears over. For the third place route, there are 2 different options you can do. One of the options is to build and open the ride similar to world record route, but instead of doing precise testing and opening, instead you remove the Indiana Railway to increase the park value. This route is a little inconsistent just like the others. I did try this route quite a bit, but could not get the park value over 20,000. I decided to basically do the world record route, but allow the checks to clear on the third in-game day instead of the second, tying third place with a 38 second time. This is the introduction of what I like to call endurance levels. Keep in mind these levels are only 15 minutes long, which sounds stupid to even consider something that requires endurance. But compared to the length of other runs, these levels are 3 times the length of a normal scenario, and when grinding these out efficiently, can be quite tiring. The gap between second and third was over 5 minutes, so I knew this was a great opportunity to secure another third place time. This scenario is tough, as the terrain is full of trees and hills, so building on the precise locations was important, as I had a setup in mind which followed a lot of what World Record did. This one took a little bit of time, but I was able to land a 1540, securing my 5th third place. I would have liked to close the gap between myself and second more, but this is the longest level in the game, and I was ready to move on. This is one of my favourites to play as a kid, so I was very excited to get to work on this level. Sadly, the speedrun of this level does not hold up to the casual experience. We basically have to build a long row of slides across the entire park to increase the guest cap. I was able to get 3rd place on my first completed run, just scraping a sub 11. Trinity Islands was next, and I started to ponder if I would start pushing into the 2nd place, or even first on some of these levels. Chronologically speaking, this was not my first world record, but actually my last. When I ran through this scenario, I cleared 3rd place by a few minutes, and was not far off Dad and ZG's. I decided to note this level down in my spreadsheet to return to when I had more experience with the game. First I got an 11:48, then an 11:37, then an 11:22. By this point it was apparent that if I got good luck with guest spawning, I could pull off world record. My goal was sub 11 and I got to work grinding the level. This park's layout is very long and slim, so this route we block off the pathway to the other half of the park and keep all guests crammed in near the entrance. We then build scrambled egg rides and set the ride cycles as high as it can go and build the longest queues possible. The big challenge with optimizing this level is building rides in the close-off areas to generate more guests whilst also managing the park with entertainers, stalls, and marketing to create a perfect balance to generate the most efficient result. At the tail end of my month grinding this game, I set a time of 10 minutes and 58 seconds, securing an untied world record. This level plays out similar to Diamond Heights, where our times are more indicated by the in-game calendar, as this objective goes off park value, not guess or park rating. Similar to Diamond Heights, it was either I would go for a tied world record, or instead go for a tied 3rd place. I settled on 3rd, and was able to get the goal completed in 6 attempts. This level is arguably one of the most precise levels to execute, as the park space you are given is very restricted, so everything must be built on specific tile spaces to make it all work. I was satisfied with my 3rd place time, and decided to move on. This was another level which had a massive gap between it and 2nd place, so my main goal here was to bring this gap down as much as possible. This level took a little while to get down properly, but I was able to finish off with an 8:35, bringing the gap down from 7 minutes to 12 seconds. If I ever return to this game, this would be one of the levels I would try again at improving. Millennium Mines was an interesting level to grind out. Within 25 minutes I had achieved my final PB, which was an 11:08, but I knew I was awfully close to world record, so I pursued for another hour, but sadly could not break through. I concluded I didn't see this world record being viable for me, as I believed world record got insanely good luck, or just executed something better that I couldn't figure out. This level was probably the most special in my time grinding this game, as I achieved my first world record on this level. Before starting, I was mainly eyeing off 3rd place, seeing that world record had a decent gap on 2nd, and 3rd place was 9 minutes apart. I thought this would be a simple 3rd place slot and get out. I completed my first run, and I believe from my memory I got awfully close to 2nd place, so I continued on. After a few attempts went by, I finally achieved my first world record. In terms of routing, I believe everything was similar, but I was able to build the rides quicker than ZG's, which successfully secured me my first world record by 22 seconds with a 10:27. I haven't bothered to mention this yet, but make sure to check out ZG's and Hey There I'm Dad. These two dominate this game and have the majority of the world records. I'm sure when they see this video, they will want to improve on my world record times, so please give them some support. Mel's World took a fair bit of my time. This is the first level that sees awards happening mid-run. I could be mistaken, but I believe awards to the park help give a boost in guest spawning, so the sooner you get the award the better. I compared my PBs to world records in terms of guest counts, and often I would be ahead going deep into the run. But each time I get a close run to world record pace, I just don't get enough guests to spawn in at the end. I secured a 12:16, which puts me 9 seconds off world record. I have this level marked as another one I would be willing to return to try for world record, but for now, I have left it as it is. This level was good fun to grind out. The route is fun to execute, but requires quick precision at the start. After securing a 12:50 which beat the 3rd place time by 9 minutes, I thought I could improve this time more. I put a good few hours into this level, but was able to secure another world record, tying Hey There I'm Dad with a 12:33. I sadly only gave this level one attempt, as most of the setup takes 9 minutes, and you spend the remaining 5 sitting around waiting for the scenario to be completed. I would like to have more attempts at this in the future if I ever return, but yeah, I got a 3rd place with a 14:31. This level would be one of my most disliked. The way this map is laid out and the route is done just didn't click with me. I spent a good while in this scenario, but ended up with another 3rd place time, completing the level in 9 minutes. This would be the scenario that I was most let down by, as I put a fair bit of time in but couldn't understand how to bridge the gap between myself and world record, which was 1 minute and 12 seconds faster. Building Ferris wheels on the correct place on the Z-axis was quite tricky in Big Pier, another level I wasn't very fond of, nor could I get close to world record. I left it in 3rd place again with a 10:17 time. Now this level is hands down the most challenging. This was the level I would continuously fail, not due to the speed of the level, but actually meeting the requirements to pass the scenario. In the back end of the scenario, the park rating drops off rapidly. I spent a fair bit of time trying reroutes to make this level more consistent, but all sadly failed. When first attempting to get a PB on this level, I had to delay adding the no exit sign until later to reduce the chance of the park rating tanking. I put more time into this level than any other, and was really determined to get a sub 11 time. Many runs came close to world record, but after a solid 50 plus attempts, I finally pieced the run together, achieving a world record time of 10:53. This is definitely the PB I'm most proud of, as I encountered a level I found simply impossible to even complete 5 minutes slower than world record, to finally achieving a world record and breaking into the sub 11 mark. The world record train is off and away, and there's still more to come. Ivory Towers was another challenging scenario, as this map is massive and the park rating is hard to maintain. I spent a good amount of time in this level, but was able to optimise the world record by over a minute. I believe the execution on building rides was quicker, so I was able to generate a higher guess cap sooner, and I was also very lucky when it came to generating guests efficiently. This scenario is brutal, as there's barely any flat terrain to work with, which makes building pathways a challenge. I very quickly altered my route from world records to make things easier and more consistent for myself. I originally set a time of 15 minutes and 42 seconds, and decided to mark this run as one to return to later, as I believed I had huge potential here if I gave it more time. After grinding other levels, I eventually returned and got to work improving on my route and optimising my execution. Similar to Ivory Towers, I was able to improve on this world record by over a minute again, completing the level in 14 minutes and 3 seconds. We are at the final scenario of the base game. Sorry if you think I'm doing the expansion pack scenarios, but you'll be sadly disappointed. I didn't play this level much from memory, but when looking up playthroughs, I always thought this level was the most intimidating due to its unique park design being based on a giant rock. Ironically, this would be the easiest world record I would achieve. On my very first completed attempt of the scenario, I would finish in, wait a minute, 12 minutes and 30 seconds. I forgot to check if my guess count had hit 900 earlier on, so let's quickly rewind and see what then happened. Oh, in 11:45, that's world record by 14 seconds. When watching the footage back, I could not believe I'd gotten world record on my first run of a scenario I thought was going to be the most difficult. I knew I could improve further considering it was my first run, so I carried on. I next got an 11:33, but finally finished off with an 11:21. Definitely an anticlimactic way to finish the video, considering how the other world records went prior. But still, this level came out as the biggest shock, as I was not aware I would get as close as I did, let alone achieve a world record on the first try. Okay, let's review all the runs I did. There are 21 levels in the original game, and I was able to reach my goal on all 21 levels. I know this game does not have a large player base, but to try speedrunning a genre I'd never tried before, and seeing so much success within a month was very fulfilling. To anyone who has thought about trying something out of the norm when it comes to speedrunning, I hope this video encourages you to get out there and try something different and see where it leads you. I want to give a special thanks to the RCT speedrunning community. They were very welcoming and gave great advice when needed. If you're interested in trying this out for yourself and want to try a month-long challenge like I did, please check out the link in the description, which links you to the leaderboards where all the resources can be found. Sorry I did not go into depth on how each level's route works, but I might save that for a future video. If you did enjoy this video however, please drop a like and let me know what other games you'd like to see me try. Anyways, I'm Saiyanz, and thank you for watching.